There's one thing the crowd will never forgive you for, and it isn't what you did. It isn't what you have, or what you said, or the thing you got that they didn't. All of that, they'll eventually get over, those they can explain, and file, and move past. This is something else, something they can't quite name, which is exactly why it makes them so uneasy. You've probably felt it happen to you and had no words for it. A room that quietly cooled toward you, a group that turned without any incident you could point to, a warmth that just withdrew, for no reason anyone would say out loud. Stay, and you'll see why certain people provoke a hostility that no one, including the people feeling it, can actually justify, and what that cold turn reveals about them and about you. I've been on the receiving end of it, frozen out by a group with no clear reason, and I spent years quietly assuming I must have done something wrong. Then, much later, I realized the opposite. I'd done something right. And that, not any mistake, was the unforgivable part. Because there's one specific thing the crowd senses, instantly, and never pardons. Not your worst trait, not your best. Something else entirely. And by the end of this, you're going to feel it name itself. One word before the investigation. I don't make these to be agreed with. I make them for the person who'd rather see the crowd clearly than be liked by it. 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If that's you, subscribe and stay. And like this if punished for no clear reason is a memory, not a hypothetical. Now, the question that sent me looking. Here's the thing I couldn't stop noticing, the observation that started all of this. I started paying attention to who, exactly, gets the quiet hostility. The cold shoulder no one announces, the subtle freeze out. And I expected a pattern. I expected it to be the cruel people, or the arrogant ones, or the failures everyone secretly resents. It wasn't. The people who drew the most of that quiet punishment weren't cruel, and they weren't losers. A lot of them were kind. Most of them were doing perfectly well. But they had one thing in common, and it took me a long time to see it, because it's not a thing you do, it's a thing you stop doing. They had, somewhere along the way, stopped needing the group's approval. They'd become genuinely fine with or without the room's blessing, and the room could feel it. And the room did not like it. That's what made no sense to me. Think about how strange that is. These people weren't attacking anyone. They weren't superior about it, mostly. They just quietly unhooked. And for that, and seemingly only that, the temperature around them dropped. Why would that, of all things? Not cruelty, not arrogance, not failure, but a person simply no longer needing you, be the thing that draws the punishment. But before I tell you what I eventually found underneath that question, I want to be fair to the answer everyone reaches for first. The comfortable one. Because it sounds obvious, and it's the first thing that falls apart. The comfortable answer is one word: envy. They're jealous. You did well, you got the thing, you rose, and people can't stand to see it, so they turn on you. Haters gonna hate. It's the explanation the whole internet will hand you, and it comes with a flattering bonus. If they hate you out of envy, then their hatred is proof of your success. Very reassuring. And I want to be fair, because envy is real, and sometimes that's genuinely what's happening. But I kept running into a fact the envy theory couldn't explain. I've known plenty of very successful people, rich, accomplished, visibly winning, whom the crowd absolutely adored, cheered for, defended. If success were the trigger, those people should have drawn the coldness, and they drew the opposite. So it clearly wasn't the winning itself. The crowd forgives winning all the time. It builds statues to winners. So the envy theory has a hole in it, and the hole is the interesting part. Because the successful people who got adored had one thing in common, and the ones who got frozen out had the opposite. The adored ones, for all their success, still visibly wanted the crowd, still played to the room, still needed the love, still checked the reaction. And the frozen out ones didn't. It was never about what you achieved. It was about whether you still need them to feel it. So I stopped asking the useless question, Why are they envious of me? And I started asking a sharper one. What exactly did I threaten? What did my not needing them actually do to the people in that room? The first clue came from a Danish philosopher named Søren Kierkegaard, born 1813, one of the founders of existentialism, and a man who was himself publicly mocked and frozen out by his own city, so he knew this from the inside. He wrote a line that sounds insane until you understand it. The crowd is untruth. Here's what he meant. A crowd isn't just a lot of people. It's a specific arrangement, and it only works if everyone inside it agrees to a quiet deal, to become a fraction, to be comparable, to measure yourself against everyone else and be measured back, endlessly, until the whole group flattens toward a shared middle. Kierkegaard called that flattening leveling, the pull that drags everyone toward the same average size, punishing anyone who rises above it or drops below it. And the engine of the whole thing is comparison. The crowd has power over you only for as long as you're standing inside it, comparing, needing to know where you rank. And that gave me the first real piece. The crowd's power over you is not really about the crowd. It's about your need for it. Its grip is exactly as strong as your wanting to belong to it, no stronger. A crowd cannot actually hold a person who has stopped needing to be held. And you might be thinking, fine, then just stop needing it. Easy. It is not easy, and there's a brutal reason why. Researchers have run a simple experiment for years, a little online ball toss game called cyberball, where the other players suddenly stop passing to you and leave you out. And being excluded from that, a pointless game with strangers that you're told is run by a computer, lights up the same part of the brain as physical pain. You know it doesn't matter, and it hurts anyway. That's how deep the wiring goes. Being cast out isn't just unpleasant to us, it registers as injury, which is exactly why we conform, and exactly why not needing the crowd is so rare. So if the crowd's whole power is my need for it, what happens the moment someone actually stops needing it? And that's where the investigation stopped being comfortable. One honest pause. I'm not holding the hard clue back. The second one, the part about what you actually do to the people around you, is next, and I won't gate it. You get the whole thing, but think about what this is for a second. A take that tells you the crowd is untruth can't really be fed by the crowd. It survives outside the machine of consensus only because people fund it directly, not because an algorithm chasing agreement pushed it. That independence is the whole reason I can say the unagreeable thing. If it's worth something to you, the Buy Me a Coffee link's in the description. Pay what you want or nothing and stay, because the second clue is where this stops being about them and starts being about the exact thing you stopped needing. Here's the second clue, and it's the one that turns the whole thing around, because it stops being about what the free person does and starts being about what they make everyone else feel. Picture a room where everyone is, on some level, performing. Not lying, exactly, just calibrating. Watching how things land, softening the opinion that might not go over, laughing a beat longer than the joke earned, all of it running quietly under the surface, so smoothly that no one notices they're doing it. It's just the water. It's how a group stays a group. And then one person walks in who isn't doing it. Who says the plain thing without checking your face first? Who's the same whether or not you approve? Who acts from their own center instead of the room's? And that person doesn't have to say a single critical word. Their mere presence does something unbearable. It makes the performance visible. Next to someone who isn't performing, everyone else can suddenly feel that they are. The free person becomes a mirror, and the room catches its own reflection mid-act, and no one enjoys being caught performing, especially by someone who clearly stopped. I made a whole video on who you are when no one's watching, that self that stays the same with or without an audience. Here's why that self is dangerous in a crowd. It doesn't need the room, and the person who doesn't need the room forces everyone in it to feel the show they're still running. That's the actual crime, not being better. Being free in a place where everyone else is quietly serving a sentence they've agreed to call normal. And that reframed the whole thing for me. The hostility I'd taken so personally was never really about me at all. It wasn't a verdict on my character. It was people flinching at what my freedom made them notice about their own, So here's the piece that made everything click. The one thing the crowd will never forgive you for is this: not needing it. Not your success. It forgives success, as long as you still crave its applause. Not your opinions. It forgives almost any opinion, if you hold it while still glancing at the room for approval. It'll even forgive genuine talent, real wealth, a better life than everyone else's, all of it on one condition: that you still need them, that you stay hooked in, comparable, checking the reaction, one of them. What it cannot forgive, what it senses instantly and punishes without ever being able to explain, is your indifference to its approval. The moment you stop needing the crowd, you've committed the only unpardonable act. And once you see why, it stops being mysterious and becomes almost mechanical. Remember what the crowd actually is: Kierkegaard's leveling machine, running only because everyone inside it agrees to be a fraction, to compare, to need. It works as long as everyone's plugged in. It has power because everyone grants it power together by needing it together. And a single person who genuinely stops needing it is not just opting out quietly. They're a crack in the dam. They're living proof that the whole arrangement is optional, that you can just unplug and survive and be fine. And nothing terrifies a system built on universal need more than one person visibly not needing it. So the crowd moves to punish that person hard and fast, not because they did anything wrong, but because their freedom, if it caught on, would be the end of the crowd's power over everyone. So the punishment was never a sign that you failed. Read that again. Very often, the crowd turning cold on you is the most reliable evidence you have that you finally got free. So the real work was never to win the crowd back, and it was never to declare war on it either. It's something much quieter than both. The quiet thing is this: you start reading the crowd's hostility as information instead of as a verdict. Next time a room goes cold on you and you can't find the reason, before you do the thing you've always done, which is scramble to figure out what you did wrong and how to fix it and win them back, stop and ask a different question. Did I just stop needing them? Did I say the plain thing, or hold my own center, or fail to perform in some small way, right before the temperature dropped? Because if the hostility genuinely has no legitimate cause you can name, that absence is the clue. Very often, the thing you did wrong was simply that you got free, and the freeze is the receipt. But I have to be careful here, because this is exactly where the insight can turn into a weapon against yourself in the wrong direction. Not every criticism is the crowd leveling you. Sometimes people are cold because you actually were a jerk, or careless, or wrong. And that feedback is real, and it deserves to be taken, not dismissed. So learn the difference by the shape of it. Legitimate criticism is specific, and it wants you to do better. Leveling hostility is vague, and it just wants you smaller. It has no fix attached, because being fixed was never the point. Being brought back down to size was. One is a map. The other is a leash. But there's a way this whole idea rots, and I've watched it happen in other people, and, I'll admit, in me. There are two ways this rots, and both of them feel, from the inside, like freedom. They're not. The first is the one the whole internet runs on: contrarianism. You take the crowd as untruth, and you flip it into a lifestyle, being against whatever they're for, saying the offensive thing on purpose, treating every bit of disapproval as a medal. But look closely at what that actually is. If you need the crowd's rejection, if you feel most alive when they're booing, if their disapproval is what tells you you're on the right track, you are still completely dependent on the crowd. You haven't unplugged from it. You've just wired yourself to it backwards. The rebel who needs to be hated is exactly as owned as the conformist who needs to be loved. Same leash, opposite end. The second corruption is quieter, and honestly, the one I fell into. You start to feel superior. You look at all the people still performing for the room, and you think, they're sheep, and I'm awake. That contempt feels like liberation, but it's just a more flattering way of still being obsessed with the crowd. Now you're defined by being above them instead of among them, which means you're still, always, measuring yourself against them. The genuinely free person isn't the one sneering at the crowd. they're the one who's indifferent to it, not against it. Just no longer organized around it in either direction. Kierkegaard wasn't anti-people, he loved individual human beings. He was anti-leveling. The target was never the persons. It was the machine that turns persons into a fraction. So the point was never to get yourself hated, and it was never to feel awake while everyone else sleeps. It was one specific thing, and it's yours to do tonight. So I'm not going to hand you a plan to stop caring what people think. 10 steps to not need approval would be its own little performance, approval seeking, wearing a costume that says it doesn't seek approval. You'd perform not needing for an audience, which is the same trap with better lighting. 2 honest questions instead. First, go back to the last time a crowd turned cold on you, the real one, the memory that surfaced in the first minute of this video. And ask it straight, no flinching. Was I actually wrong? Or was I free? Sometimes the honest answer really is I was wrong, and if so, good, take it, fix it, that's the map. But sometimes, if you're truly honest, you'll find there was no real fault at all. Just the moment you stopped needing them, and the chill that followed. And you'll know the difference instantly, because one answer makes you want to improve, and the other one just makes you want to shrink. Second, and harder. Name one room you're still shrinking in right now, one place where you make yourself smaller, quieter, more agreeable than you actually are, still paying the entry fee in pieces of yourself, still keeping yourself comparable so the temperature never drops. You know exactly where it is. You felt it while I was talking. You don't have to walk out of that room tonight, or blow it up, or announce anything. You just have to stop lying to yourself that the smallness is kindness, or humility, or keeping the peace. It's a tax. And you already know the one thing they'd never forgive, because some quiet part of you has been very carefully, for years, making sure you never do it. Remember the one thing they never forgive, you not needing them? Here's the strange part. You're going to test it whether you mean to or not. The next time you genuinely stop needing a room's approval, you'll feel the temperature move. And now you'll know what it means instead of taking it as a wound. But here's where a few of us stop pretending together. In the comments, name one place you still shrink to stay comparable, the room you make yourself smaller in, the tax you're still paying. Just name it. Saying it out loud is the first crack in it. And reading a whole wall of other people's is its own kind of permission, proof that the smallness was never really you, it was the arrangement. Send this to the person who got quietly frozen out of somewhere and never understood why. They've been carrying it as a wound, and it might have been a graduation. And if you want work that answers to individuals instead of the crowd, funded by people, not by an algorithm chasing consensus, the link's in the description. Not charity. Fuel for the thing that doesn't need the room. I'll be here Friday.